Now let's hit the road with Steve Miller, the Chi Ranger. Good morning, Steve.
Hello, how are you?
I am fine.
Super
And you?
Good. I am doing awesome.
Yeah, you can't complain. It's
no,
Friday.
It's
once
Friday.
Again.
It's time to talk travel. It's time to go out and enjoy this amazing world.
So where are we going to go?
Well, I love traveling, and one of the places I love going to is, of course, the national parks in the United States. So I thought I'd take a moment out to talk about two of my favorite parks in southern Utah, which I think is probably one of the most beautiful regions of the U.S. So we're going to talk about two parks, Zion National Park, Bryce Canyon National Park, that are really designed to capture the adventurous nature of travelers.
I didn't know Utah was famous for its national parks.
It is. Actually, there are a number of fantastic parks in the southern region and even extending up into the northern area. Arches, the Moab area is fantastic. You have Canyonlands. It's an amazing park. But two of the best, really hands down, are Zion and Bryce Canyon.
Okay, so let's start with the Zion National Park.
Yes, Zion. It's located in southern Utah near Springdale. It's about 3 hours east of Las Vegas and has a very long and varied history. It started going back around 12,000 years ago when the Zion's first inhabitants came to the area, and these people are now almost invisible. They tracked mammoths, they tracked giant sloths, some camels across the southern Utah area, but due to climate change and overhunting, they died out. The animals died out about 8,000 years ago.
They used to have camels in Utah?
Believe it or not, it's a high desert area, and that's what the researchers and the archaeologists found. The resources dwindled about 2,600 years ago, and the people then looked for another place to live. But over the last 1,500 years or so, it became a region of farming because of the Virgin River coming through there. So it's actually really cool. Zion's geology provides these later pioneers with a great combination in the in the desert. A wide, low-level place to grow food, a river to water it, and an adequate growing season. So on the Colorado Plateau, where this region is, northern Arizona, southern Colorado, and Utah, the crops grow best between 5,000 and 7,000 feet, making Zion's elevation between 3,600 and 8,700 feet almost ideal.
Oh, okay.
Now, like the rest of the Native American population in the region, they left about 800 years ago, probably due to drought and overuse of the land, because farming technology was really something new.
Right, and that's what people used to do back in those days, right? They deplete an area of resources and they move on to the next area.
Right, and almost all the southwestern people, farming was a new way of life. They really didn't have the knowledge that we have today of rotating crops and making sure everything was safe. So when the soil wasn't fertile anymore, they just moved out. And so a lot of these people now live in the Rio Grande River area, their descendants. So they left. But Zion today is amazing. It's one of the most frequently visited national parks in the United States. And for this reason, it's caused a bit of a problem. Originally, it wasn't really designed to handle this many people.
And tourist traffic.
Tourist traffic. It's unbelievable. So what they've done now is create a shuttle bus system. So when you arrive to the park, you essentially have to leave your vehicle at the visitor center. And then buses run every 5 minutes all the way up and all the way down.
Can't drive around anymore.
Right. If you are disabled or have a disabled person in your party, then you are able to travel. And this is actually a really, really good thing. Not only does it make the roads safer to navigate because of the winding roads, the reason primarily that they've done this is because the parking is so inadequate. You have all these great vistas in the canyon where you can see the geology just take shape, the beautiful waterfalls, and 4 parking spots.
Yeah,
so
picture-taking
spots. So you have 5 million people go into this location and nowhere to park.
Right.
So this shuttle bus system is great. And if you're hiking, it's also great because that way you can just go and then do multiple hikes in one
So
day.
it was a logistical move as well as an environment-friendly move.
Right, and all the buses are, of course, either electric or have natural gas, so they're clean burning. But the park is awesome if you like adventure.
There are things to do?
There are lots of things to do, and one of my favorite activities...
Hiking?
Hiking. Now, this first hike is not for the faint of heart. It's called Angel's Landing. So, what do the words Angel's Landing bring to your mind?
A place where angels fly and then land?
Exactly, and that's exactly where you go.
So that means it's high up?
I wouldn't say it's very high up. It's at, there's a 1,400, almost 1,500 foot elevation change. And the trail is fairly unique. It's 5.4 miles round trip, so it's about 3 miles out and 3 miles back. The first, say, 2 miles is very easy. Switchbacks going up, you reach the saddle of the mountain, and there's a toilet there, a place to sit back and relax. And unfortunately, that's where most people stop hiking.
Because it gets difficult after that.
Not only does it get difficult, you need nerves of steel.
How come?
Because this is an outcropping made of Navajo sandstone going up another few hundred feet. And the trail is roughly 1 meter wide. And on the left-hand side, you have an 800-foot drop.
Oh, no.
On the right-hand side, you have a 1,200-foot drop. And that's it.
Oh.
And you have steel chains that you hold on so you don't fall.
That sounds like a lot of fun,
It's
actually.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
The main challenge of the hike is if you have an aversion to heights, it's not really recommended.
Right.
But also, since it's only 3 feet wide, people are going and coming. So you really have to pay attention of what's happening out on the trail and navigate and move in certain areas so that people can pass going both directions.
I bet there have been accidents.
Unfortunately, there have been.
Yeah.
However, when you finally make the final ascent, the view that you have from on top Angel's Landing is amazing. You have the entire Zion Canyon before you, and it's breathtaking. And I highly recommend, if you like adventure, if you like challenging hikes, do this hike. It's fantastic, but also be aware of the area's sudden rainstorms during monsoon season, because it doesn't make for an easy hike down. It's actually fairly dangerous because the Navajo sandstone becomes quite slippery, and you run the risk of falling down. Which brings me to the second awesome hike there, which is, of course, the Narrows. Now, the Narrows are a slot canyon at the northern end of the Virgin River, and it creates these beautiful curving lines that you see in a lot of times in the Southwest. Beautiful for photography, and the river comes through. So you actually have to hike in the Virgin River. And at some points, you can actually touch both sides of the canyon wall. It's brilliant. It's a 9.5 mile hike.
Not as dangerous as...
Well, the hike itself is only dangerous because you're hiking in the river. And because of the slot canyon, if it were to rain, you get this flash flooding.
Floods.
And a lot of people, unfortunately, do drown because they aren't paying attention. They aren't looking out for the sudden changes in weather. They aren't paying attention to weather reports. And they just get swept away.
You fall off a cliff and get hurt, or you drown
but
in a
life
flash
is not
flood.
worth living if you just sit on the couch.
Adventure.
Yeah, some of the other things, if you don't want to do those extreme activities, you have fantastic ranger talks in the campground at night, and of course, several activities for children. Amazing stuff there. The access to the park is, of course, $25 for 1 week. And there are lots of lodging and campsites in the park and also nearby. So it's a really cool place to explore.
Okay, so that's the Zion National Park. Next we go on to Bryce Canyon National Park.
Bryce Canyon, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful parks in all of the southern Utah area.
Close to Zion?
It's close to Zion. It's about 90 miles from Zion. But because of the mountainous terrains, it takes a few hours to get there. But it's also referred to as the Park of Sandcastles. It first became a national park in 1928. It was actually founded by the Mormon pioneer Ebenezer Bryce. It has a very unique geology consisting of a series of horseshoe-shaped amphitheaters carved from the eastern edge of the Penobscot Plateau in southern Utah, and the erosional force caused by frost and dissolving rainwater in limestone rock. Wow. So what happened is you have this limestone, which is very porous, and the frost would get into the pores, the water would get into the pores. It would freeze and expand, and then as the temperatures would warm, it would melt. And so you get these, what they call hoodoos, that looks like sand. And because of the oxidation of the metals and of the soil, they're orange, they're white, they're brilliant. And then during sunset, they absolutely come alive. And in the morning, as the sun comes up over the amphitheaters, they're just absolutely stunning.
Wow.
So the hoodoos, it's a lot of fun. It's one of the few places on Earth where they actually talk about how the name came about, because at first they wanted to call them arches, but there's another national park with arch. Then they wanted to call them natural bridges because of the formations that they make. But there's another park called natural bridges, so they had to come up with a new name.
Hoodoos.
So, hoodoos. And because of the forest area, it's rich with ponderosa pines and brilliant meadows. But the park is also fairly isolated. It's one of the reasons why it takes so long to get to this park from Zion is you have to go up and down and into the woods. So it's very far away from other places. And that means that light pollution is very low. So at night, being able to look up into the stars is fantastic. And it's one of the national parks that they have the so-called dark rangers.
Dark Rangers.
The Dark Rangers. They're not evil, but they specialize in astronomical observation. And they put on some of the most amazing nighttime programs about galaxies, about planets.
So they help you out with stargazing.
Absolutely. And one of the greatest activities that you can do is go there at night. Make sure you stay close to the park or in the park. And when they have these evening programs during a new moon, when the moon doesn't shine at all, the sky comes alive. You can actually see the edge of the Milky Way galaxy at night. And in the parking lot of the visitor center, there's 20 or 30 high-powered telescopes. And you have instructors telling you all the secrets of the universe for free. It's awesome.
So an overnight stay at Bryce Canyon is a must.
Absolutely. Actually, 2 or 3 days is what you really need for both these parks. Some of the other things that are really cool about this park is they have what's called the Fairyland Loop. Now, this is an 8-mile round-trip loop. And what's unique about it is you can go up and down. You go above the rim of the amphitheater, down to the canyon floor, and then back up again. And you see some of the interesting formations, like the Great Wall of China, the London
they got a Great Wall of China there?
Well, this is one of the issues that they actually caused for themselves is when explorers first came here, here's a hoodoo formation. It looks like the Great Wall of China. I'm going to call it the Great Wall of China. Well, unfortunately, it's still a natural environment where erosion's taking place and it's changing over time. So what they've now started doing is calling, this is hoodoo number 155. This is hoodoo number. It lost some of its charm, but you get to see all these really interesting formations along the way, and you see these amazing ponderosa pines just coming up out of it. It's fantastic. There's a lot of backcountry hiking as well that you can do. It is really, really cool. And if you're really adventurous, there's an 8-mile Riggs Spring Loop that goes off into multiple areas with severe elevation changes, but it's really beautiful.
For hiking.
For hiking, yeah. It's absolutely great. And of course, as with all national parks, it's $25 for 1 week for this major park. But you can get what's called a National Parks Pass. I've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
It's 1 year, gets you into all the national parks and monuments and a few other places, and it's only $80. And the cool thing about the Parks Pass is that when you buy it at a national park, when you pay your entry fees, the bulk of the fees stay there. So when you buy your National Parks Pass, the bulk of that fee also stays there.
Preserving the parks.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's only $80. It's valid for a year. So if you were to do these two parks, that's $50 of your $80 already brought back to you, and then you have a whole another year to make use of it. So it's a great resource for travelers.
Awesome. We got to travel through southern Utah, 2 national parks in particular.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for taking us there.
My pleasure.
See you again soon.
Absolutely.
Steve Miller, the Tree Ranger, with Hit the Road.